Planet Vero Studios, brought to you by Evergreen Media, creating cohesive marketing campaigns. Evergreen Media in Vero Beach.
Hi, friends, and welcome to Growing Old Fearlessly. I am your host, Julie. This is the show where we talk about the process of growing older one day at a time and possibly having to take care of an elderly parent or neighbor or friend. And in today's show, we're going to specifically talk about mental health. But before I do that, I want to give thanks to my sponsor, Evergreen Media, for making this show possible. If you would like to host your own show, you can reach them at egreenmedia.com. So I want to start with a quote from Glenn Close. She probably said this right after her movie, Fatal Attraction. She said, "What mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversation." And that is why we are here today with my guest. He is the Executive Director for the Mental Health Collaborative of Indian River County. Welcome, Wes Samons.
Julie, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for coming in. We
Absolutely.
really appreciate you coming here. So let's first of all, let's talk a little bit about you and your background and your experience.
Sure. I would love to share those thoughts with you. So I have over 20 years of experience in mental health. I started as a ABA therapist, so that is someone who works with children who have just developmental disabilities, so like autism, Down syndrome, things like that. So
Okay.
I actually ran my own business in a school district in New Jersey, where we provided the services in the school. I trained the paraprofessionals how to do the ABA programs with the students there. And
What does ABA stand for?
so it's Applied Behavioral Analysis. Sorry. And I know I get used to using those initials when you're in the job, and you forget that not everyone knows what that means. But yeah, so it's Applied Behavioral Analysis, which is generally helping children who don't automatically know how to learn, like teaching them how to actually learn things. Because someone who's on the autism spectrum doesn't always know how to mimic what other people are doing. And that's how we learn from our early stages. So like learning how to talk, for instance, is by listening and watching other people talk and then developing that skill. So it's something that at an early age, they may need more attention to learn how to do those things.
Okay, so you started in New Jersey, and then how did you end up in Florida?
Yeah, so I got tired of the winters and decided, let's go to where it's sunny all the time, right? So yeah, I reached out to a couple of agencies here in Florida. I also had a background doing family therapy prior to moving, and then I found an agency, Suncoast Mental Health Center, that was hiring, and I came on as a therapist there. Started out in Okeechobee County doing therapy in the schools there, which was a wonderful experience. And then kind of worked my way up that ladder and became the program manager there and in Indian River County as well.
Wow, and then you moved on to the Mental Health Collaborative.
That's right. Yeah, this winter I was presented with the opportunity, and I couldn't pass it up to be the director there and to try to help our community in a more macro way, in a broader form of developing programs and things like that.
And what exactly does the Mental Health Collaborative do?
So the main thing that the collaborative does for the community is the McCabe Connection Center. So some people may have heard of the McCabe Connection Center, and that's ran by the collaborative. My team is there, and what we do is we link the community to services. So if someone needs a therapist, they need a psychiatrist, they would call our office, and the clinical specialist there will link them to a provider that takes their insurance. Or if they don't have insurance, we can help them with that as well.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. So let's talk a little bit now about mental health for our older adults. I was Googling, everything that we want to find out, we find out through Google, right? So I went to bellavistahealth.com, and I found 10 signs that may indicate mental illness in the elderly. And I want to get your opinion about this or your thoughts about this.
Sure.
Number one, social isolation.
Yeah, and that's usually the number one indicator for a reason, right? Like that really does typically point to someone who is struggling with some type of mental illness, usually depression, potentially sometimes social anxiety. But unfortunately, a lot of times we see that our elderly population do isolate.
Huh. So okay, and you just mentioned, it is very important, and I guess it was number one on this list for a reason. Depression is part of it too, but they were talking about absence of the family. Some of the causes would be like absence from their family, decreased mobility.
Right.
What have you seen?
Yeah, those are usually the factors. I think that the typical situation is someone who has lost their significant other. And so now, someone that they spent 20, 30 years living with and sharing a home with is gone. And they just, they don't handle it as well as some other people. And maybe they don't have the social or family supports that some people have. And they really don't have anyone to reach out to. And that's what we see a lot. And then that, and also trying to handle the loss of someone and grieving and doing it on your own at a later stage in life, and it can just be too overwhelming.
Grief is so difficult, and I'm glad that you mentioned the loss of a spouse. I relate everything to my dad when I'm thinking about topics about the elderly. And 2 years ago, my dad, we lost my mother. And and he still grieves, and with plenty of reason, because they spent 61 years together.
Sure.
And that is very difficult when you are so old. He's 90 years old, but even if you're in your 70s, even if you're in your 80s, and you lose that person that you have spent every day of your married life with.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that myself. Actually, I lost my mother, and my father were still together, and they were married for 30 years, and then she passed. She got sick and passed away, and it was hard for him. It was really hard, and I was living in a different state, and so it was difficult for me to try to check on him and make sure he was doing okay. I know he did have some social supports, but he went through a really rough time with it. He made some decisions, tried to replace her quickly, got remarried and divorced for the first time. So yeah, it's difficult. It is. It's really difficult to lose a spouse. And he was young then. He was in his 50s. So, wow. It's hard for anyone at any age to lose someone that they've spent so much time with.
Right. So it makes perfect sense. Even though it's a mental issue, it still makes sense for them to isolate or to be depressed under that type of circumstance,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of part of the grieving process to be sad, of course, and to try to work your way through it. And just not everyone is able to do that, or they're not able to cope in a positive way. So
is this one of those things that and I know that I'm probably jumping the gun on this one, but is this just social isolation? Is that one of the reasons that somebody would call the McCabe Center for some help?
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be a huge reason to call, and something that we unfortunately have a lot of experience helping people with, but just calling to just talk to our team. Sometimes, that's talking to someone on the phone, and not, a lot of our seniors in our community, their only interaction sometimes is with Meals on Wheels coming and bringing a meal to them. And we'll get feedback from Meals on Wheels that they kind of act like a therapist in some ways, because they're talking to, someone on a daily basis. So yeah, reaching out to us and letting us help link them to whatever they're looking for, whether it be, a social activity, which I know we're going to get into a little bit later, some of the options that our seniors have. Social activity, finding someone to talk to, a peer group, things like that. That's what we can help with for sure.
That's great. Well, I'm so glad. I think a lot of people sometimes, when they think about mental health, they think that they need to be like crazy. And that's not it. Like, there's so many different levels, and it's okay to call and ask for help. I'm saying that right off the bat. Some of the other signs about mental illness in the elderly: appetite changes, confusion or disorientation, unexplained physical symptoms, depressed mood that lasts longer than 2 weeks. I mean, that's the depression that we were talking about.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And that's the thing with grieving. Like, it's okay to feel that way for a couple of weeks, but then the natural progression is, you start to accept what has happened and start to try to move on with your life. But when people don't reach that stage after a few weeks, then you start to see that it's a lingering issue that they may need some help with.
Right.
But you're right. Like, anyone could benefit from having someone to talk to. That's the way I've always felt about therapy in general. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It can be a peer. It can be a friend. It can be, a family member. But when those people aren't there, finding someone that you can trust that's a professional that knows how to help you with coping skills is beneficial for anybody.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the peers. When my mother passed, so this happens at any age. My dad, because he was with her for 61 years and he still to today misses her terribly. However, I lost my mother. And for 3 full months, I didn't do anything. I didn't go anywhere. I was very depressed, and I see that now. I didn't see it at the moment. Sure. I ate my troubles away. Right. Yeah. But that's a whole other topic too. And a friend of mine came to visit 3 months later. She just showed up from out of town, and she's like, "Jules, come on, we're going to go play pickleball." And I was like, "I don't know how to play that." And she was like, "Well, I'm going to teach you." And it took me out. And from that day on, I was able to grieve in what I feel was a healthier way. Yeah. And I left my depression behind.
That's great. Yeah. You have a good friend there. And that's kind of what a good friend or a therapist would do, is say, "Hey, listen, let's get your focus on something positive, right? Let's try to find something that's going to help you to become more active." Sometimes, that activity, it can help, being more physically active can help kind of to cope with what's hurting us mentally, right? We start to feel better about ourselves in that regard. Yeah.
So some of the other signs, the next one was changes in personal hygiene, loss of interest in activities, substance misuse, and sleep changes, either sleeping too much or not sleeping.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So it can go both ways with depression. You can, you'll have some people that's all they want to do is sleep. You'll have other people that they can't sleep, and, because they have too many things going on in their head and they don't know how to cope with those things. Of course, misuse of substances, that's, self-medicating, basically. You see that a lot, where people will use narcotics or drink just to feel differently, to kind of make those feelings and that depression go away. But we know that that's not healthy, and it makes it worse most of the time, or all the time, really. So yeah, it's all about finding a healthy coping skill and some healthy ways to process what has happened when you're depressed and why you're depressed.
Right. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Start your day with fuel in your tank with breakfast at Marsh Landing. You'll love our biscuits and gravy, sweet potato pancakes, or eggs Benedict with a fried green tomato. And how about a mimosa or a monster Bloody Mary? It's breakfast, old Florida style, at Marsh Landing in Fellsmere.
Welcome to Riverside Theater's Comedy Zone, where the comedy's wild, untamed, and downright hilarious. Come out this Friday and Saturday night at 7 and 9 p.m. for the Treasure Coast Best Live Stand-Up Comedy Show, featuring nationally recognized comedians, with cabaret-style seating and food and drink table service. Warning! You may laugh until it hurts. Kickstart your evening with live entertainment, food, and drinks at Live in the Loop. Buy tickets at riversidetheater.com and get ready for a night of non-stop laughs.
Sturgis Lumber and Hardware has what you need for hurricane season. Lumber and plywood, straps, ties, and bolts, plus the service to find what you need. Be ready now. Sturgis Lumber and Hardware, US 1 Vero Beach. Be hurricane ready with Sturgis Lumber and Hardware. SturgisLumber.com.
Hi, I'm Ralph Winook with Dale Sorensen Real Estate and ResidentialRalph.com. When you're interested in buying or selling a home, contact me. As your agent, I will work nonstop to ensure that your buying or selling experience is smooth and stress-free. I will be there for you at every stage of the process to answer your questions and help you make an informed decision. So, why wait? Contact me, Ralph Winook, and schedule a consultation with me today. Visit residentialralph.com. That's right, residentialralph.com.
Advertising is essential. You've got to make people aware that you're there. We can do that with a cohesive marketing campaign from Evergreen Media. Based on your business goals, we'll create a mix of digital advertising on social media sites like Facebook, video advertising on streaming sites like Hulu and Paramount Plus, and supplement them with local TV and radio ads. Build awareness, educate, and inform the public with a cohesive marketing campaign by Evergreen Media. Check out egreenmedia.com or search online for Evergreen Media in Vero Beach.
Welcome back to Growing Old Fearlessly. I want to thank my sponsor, Ralph Winook, realtor with Dale Sorensen Real Estate. He goes by Residential Ralph, and whether you need to buy or sell your home, give him a call, and you can reach him through his website, residentialralph.com. So we're back with Wes Samons. We're talking about mental health, and you have some statistics for Indian River County.
Sure. So 33% of Indian River County is 65 and over. So that's a large percentage of our population. So definitely focusing on our seniors and how we can support them is something that we want to do as a community, and especially something we want to do at the Mental Health Collaborative, for sure.
Right.
One interesting statistic that I found is that 85% of our seniors live over a half a mile away from healthy food options, which that's kind of staggering when you think about it. It's not like they can just go out and go to Publix or Fresh Market and grab something because maybe they live too far away and they want to get in their car and drive. We want our older people driving a lot or too far. And, getting on the go line sometimes, it's hard to get out of the house and get there. So that is an issue that we would like to try to find some ways to alleviate and decrease that number for sure.
Yeah. And I guess that's why it's, some services like Meals on Wheels are very important in our community.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's such a popular and needed program, because they are able to get out and get to those people that don't have those options or can't get to the options.
Right. I believe that's through Senior Resource Association.
It is, yeah. And I think the Senior Collaborative also has that as an option as well.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was looking also at some information on the internet, and I know that you know, but I wonder if everybody knows what is the the most common mental disorder among seniors over the age of 65.
Yeah, so that would be depression, like we had talked about earlier. It's the most prevalent mental health disorder, and it's like we said, there's numbers of there's multiple factors that lead to that. As we get older, our physical health starts to decline, and sometimes that in itself can be hard for someone to deal with, and then that leads to feeling sad and depressed, not being able to do the things that you used to be able to do. That's always a factor, and then again, isolation also being a factor. And
I was just going to say, especially for someone, an elderly person who is living by himself or herself, and having no company at home at all, it's difficult because they're just sitting, watching TV, watching gruesome news.
Right.
And it makes it difficult. And when they start thinking about years past, and, at that point, like I know my dad, every now and then we go through pictures and he's like, well, he's the last one standing of 13 children. So when he talks about his siblings, there's that nostalgic feeling, and but we're doing it together, so he doesn't get all depressed at that moment.
Right. Yeah.
But when they do it by themselves, they do. Exactly,
because your father's very lucky to have you as someone he can talk to and share those things with, and that probably helps with his mental health quite a bit. But when you look at someone who doesn't have a daughter to talk to, or a child, and if they're 85 or 90, they've probably outlived most of their friends, and unfortunately, so they really don't have that social resource basically to lean on, and then that's when the isolation starts to happen because they don't have anyone to turn to,
right? And
then that leads to the depression.
One of the things, and I keep bringing my dad into this, my dad is at an assisted living facility now, and at first it was a little rocky for him to get used to it, but now he plays bingo, he plays Scrabble, I called him this morning on my way into work, and he was out for a walk around. I mean, he's on a wheelchair, but he was on a walk. Sure. And he's like, oh, yeah, as soon as I get back, we're going to start playing bingo. And I said, oh, the Jessica is the person who does it. And he's like, no, she's off today, so I'm in charge. I'm the leader.
That's great.
So it has been a great change for him once he started socializing with others.
And that is a huge benefit of the assisted living facilities that we have here in town, is that it is a way to socialize, and there's activities and such things that allow the people who are living there, obviously, to make friends and to have things to look forward to. And if you would like, that brings me to one of the programs that's going to start here in our community. If you want me to go ahead and run into that.
Well, first of all, I want to hear about your program, because you have a special program.
Oh, I do, yes. So we started the Unstruggle campaign a few months ago, I guess back in the fall. And through the Unstruggle campaign, we're trying to decrease the stigma of people receiving mental health services or any kind of help in general. And one of the things that we've started with that is a walking club called Unstruggle Step by Step. And that is something just to help people to have something to do. You can go, you can walk, you can socialize. We're doing it in the mall right now because it's so hot outside. So Thursdays at 5 in Indian River Mall, we're meeting. So that would be today. We're meeting at 5 and hoping just to help have more options for people in the community to socialize and do something that's somewhat structured.
Right,
and
you meet
free to attend too, by the way.
Right, and you meet at the information desk,
At the information desk, right? Yeah, we'll be there in our blue shirts, and we're easy to, we're hard to miss. Let's put it that way.
So if you're watching or listening to this show later at a different date, just remember it's Thursdays at 5, and this will go through the entire month of August and probably through the weekend of Labor Day.
Yeah,
right?
Probably through Labor Day. We're thinking that we'll stay in the mall and stay consistently at 5 on Thursdays, and then in the fall we're going to start to move it back outside to different parks and locations. So just look at our Facebook page for details.
Okay. And then you have the Senior Walking Club by the Health Department, and also the Upslide program that the Senior Collaborative is starting soon. Yes.
So I would love to talk about those two programs for our seniors. The Senior Walking Club started this past Tuesday, and they meet at MLK Park in the Gifford area, 8:30 in the morning. And it's specifically for seniors to attend. Just, again, to have a way to socialize and to have some physical activity, right? Trying to combine physical and mental health together is important, as we talked about earlier. And then the Upslide program is really a friendship program. It started in Tallahassee, and it's literally for seniors to come, and there's so many different activities that they have that are structured, like playing bingo, playing board games, all kinds of things like that. They have art therapy, they have music therapy. So that's going to start in October. It's free as well. It's a free program. You just want to reach out to the Senior Collaborative, and we'll definitely be promoting that once we know the details of when it's going to start. But look for that in the fall for sure.
That sounds fantastic, because there are plenty of seniors who live in our community. They're not in assisted living facilities.
Right.
They're capable of moving out and about, and maybe they take the GO line, but that is a great opportunity for them to go socialize and be active and get out of their homes.
Yeah, it's something we're really excited about. I saw the presentation with the Senior Collaborative from the group in Tallahassee that started the program, and it looks like something that'll be great for the community.
Oh, that sounds great. So, Wes, we need to start wrapping up our show today. I know that there's a lot more to talk about mental health, but if anybody needs to reach the Mental Health Collaborative, how do they do that? Yeah,
absolutely. So we're at 2345 14th Avenue. That's our physical address, but our phone number is 772-217-3663, and you can call any Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. If you need to call later than that, leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you. But we try to make sure that anyone who calls, that we can assist them.
Great. And that number is also on your website?
It is, yes.
And that the website is?
It's mentalhealthcollaborative.net. Is that right? .org. I apologize. I apologize. Mentalhealthcollaborative.org. Just Google Mental Health Collaborative Indian River County and it'll pop up for you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so very much for being my guest today. This has been very informative. I want to finish with a final quote, and this is by Maya Angelou, she said, nothing can dim the light that shines from within. So with that thought, go out there, keep shining, and don't be afraid to grow old. See you next week.